Hello and welcome from the outskirts of Berlin. This is a Dhamma reflection in perfect Kintsugi English. Recently I heard about a tragic cave diving accident on the news. In the Maldives, 5 Italian divers went into a deep, complex system of underwater caves, and they never made it out. I've heard that cave diving takes an enormous amount of experience. It is just so incredibly risky. Willpower alone won't help you down there. You can't just dive in and say, let's see what happens. This sport takes years of training. You really need to know your limits. You need a good team, people who actually know what they're doing. And of course you need the right gear, like special breathing gases and plenty of them. Because at a certain depth, even normal oxygen can become dangerous. Things that work perfectly on the surface just don't work the same way down there. When divers squeeze through narrow spots, they can stir up mud and sand. Suddenly you have zero view and you can't see a thing anymore. You completely lose your orientation. Panic starts to kick in. And then it's so easy to mistake a wrong turn for the exit. That's why cave divers use guidelines with little arrows on them. When you can't see a thing, all you can do is feel your way along those arrows to find the exit again. And somehow this made me think of meditation. A lot of people start meditating because they want peace, freedom, or healing. But often something else creeps in. We want to achieve something. We want something different from what is happening right now, something more spectacular. We want deep states, special experiences, seeing lights, seeing Buddhas, Devas, feeling blissful, maybe even enlightenment, without really knowing what that actually means. What looks like strong determination is often just tension and pressure. A man once looked at his wristwatch with a very serious face and asked the teacher, "How long will it take me to get enlightened?" You know, I used to be exactly like that. When I first came to Sayadaw U Tejaniya back in 2003, I was full of ambition. I desperately wanted to get somewhere. When I arrived, I bowed down before him super slowly, just to show him how incredibly mindful I was. But I was so tense that my head slammed into the floor like a ripe watermelon. Before I arrived at Shweomin, I had been at an intensive retreat somewhere else where everything was done with massive effort and control. Sayadaw just looked at me totally confused and started laughing. When he finally stopped, he said, "Go to your room for 3 days and just relax. Get some sleep." I was so shocked. "I didn't come all the way from Germany to Myanmar to sleep, Sayadaw. I came here for enlightenment." He just shook his head. Later he told me that these strong-willed yogis scared him the most. He said they are like people driving a Ferrari at 200 miles per hour around a sharp corner without even knowing how to drive. No wisdom, no experience, no driver's license. And I think he was absolutely right, because meditation is not a violent act. And the mind is not a soldier. We often sit on our cushions with clenched teeth, looking like Napoleon's army. We fight our thoughts, we fight the pain, we fight our emotions. Basically, we fight everything. We try so hard to control the mind. More pressure, more will. But willpower alone doesn't make us wise. If it did, all strong-willed people would automatically be enlightened. But are they? In the early teachings, intention is a key thing. But not every strong drive is helpful or wholesome. What matters is, where is it come from? Does it come from greed, anger, and confusion, or from generosity, kindness, and clarity? There is a way of wanting that is pure greed. I want results now. I want a special experience. I want to do it better. I want to get rid of this feeling. From the outside, our practice might look very serious, but inside it's just another form of tanha turmoil, just deep craving. Don't get me wrong, practice needs energy. It needs direction, and it needs the honest wish to see things as they really are. But without mindfulness and wisdom, it quickly turns into a struggle. When I was a kid, I had a Greek tortoise named Susi. Susi had an incredible will. She always wanted to go somewhere, and very often she would stand right in front of a wall, trying to push it away with total determination. Again and again. If tortoises could get a red head from hard work, hers would be bright red, like a traffic light. I would often pick her up and slide her just a little bit to the side. Because right there, right next to the wall, was the door, and it was wide open. If Susi had just taken one single step back, she would have seen the exit. But instead, she just pushed harder and harder against the same wall. And maybe we do the exact same thing in meditation, not because we don't have enough energy, but because we haven't learned how to truly look. That's why practice needs more than just raw willpower. It needs mindfulness and clear understanding, the right amount of energy, patience, wisdom, and inner balance. And it needs right effort. By that I don't mean effort driven by greed or anger. I mean the effort that sees when the mind is in an unwholesome state and chooses to stop feeding it. Instead, it brings out what is good and wholesome. Meditation is not a spiritual Olympics. It's not, I'm going to force myself to get enlightened as fast as possible. It's more like a careful, intelligent way of learning, a slow rubbing away of the kilesas, our mental defilements. It's an honest way of getting to know our own mind. And one more thing. In the West, people often talk about killing the ego. But in the early teachings, there is no solid fixed thing inside of us that we need to destroy. It's simply that the mind takes an experience and makes it personal. It creates an I, a mine, a myself. This is me, this belongs to me, this is what I am. And that's exactly why force doesn't work. The will itself is not the problem, it's what the mind builds around it. My path, my meditation, my progress, my experience, my awakening. The will says, I want to dive deep right now. Wisdom asks, are you even ready for that? Do you have the right tools? And mindfulness asks, what is actually happening here right now? Maybe we are often just like Susi, pushing against the same inner wall for years. Not because we lack willpower, we probably have plenty of that, but because we haven't learned to step back and see the open door. So not every strong will is part of the path. Some kinds of wanting just bind us tighter. And sometimes letting go a little bit is actually the wiser choice. But not so much that we become sloppy. Sayadaw U Tejaniya once told a story about a monk he saw wringing out his towel with all his strength. Sayadaw asked him, "Why are you doing that?" I said to him, "Well, I would just throw the wet towel over the line." And Sayadaw smiled and said, "And that is laziness." The path is not about forcing things, but it's also not about just drifting along. Maybe practice doesn't mean fighting and conquering the mind. Maybe it just means slowly learning to see our dormant motivations and defilements a little clearer, so we can gently replace them with what is wholesome.